In this episode of Beyond the Mold, we'll talk to Geeta Prakash, who created a 100% natural Ayurvedic skincare and wellness company. Yes, this skincare range is 100% natural, and very few brands can make that bold claim. So let's find out what led her to create this brand, the challenges she faced along the way, and if you're looking at creating a skincare brand of your own, what are the things that you should keep in mind? So put your notepad out and your drink down because you're going to want to take some notes for this. So Geeta, welcome to Beyond the Mold.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today, Salil.
It's so good to have you. So Geeta, you're an engineer. You're an engineer from one of the foremost engineering colleges way back. You got into a mainstream engineering stream. You graduated top of your batch, got into premium institutes. So can you tell us a bit of your background? What was the start of the journey, and what caused the shift?
So, well, I don't know what you call as a shift. Actually, life itself is a series of constant smaller shifts and sometimes big shifts. So by education, like I said, I did my electrical engineering, and after my engineering, I joined Thermax, which is one of the leading companies in the engineering sector. After that, I did my post-graduation in management and then joined one of my dream companies, which was the Tata Administrative Service.
Then you went to the Tata Group, right? Is that, and you were there for a long time?
Yes, I was there for over a decade.
So did you actually take a break from the corporate world to start the family consciously? And was that like a temporary break, or how was it?
I finally landed up taking a clean break because at the time when I was supposed to join back, my daughter, my younger one, had fairly severe health issues like asthma and allergies, and she had to be on steroid inhalers and several other treatments.
Very young age.
Yes, she was less than a year at that time.
During this phase, right, how did you, so what all did you explore, and what did you which area did you actually go deep into that has actually led situations unfold to this point in time?
So the main things that I started exploring at that time were how should we look at solving her asthma and allergy problems? Because we went to the best pediatricians in Pune. We went to pulmonary function specialists. We went to leading doctors in a variety of fields, to see what is it that needed to be done for us to not reach a situation where she's gasping for breath all the time, or where she had to be put on inhalers or nebulizers. Because sometimes when you see the child like that, I think that itself is a panic. It's very distressing for the parent. I can imagine, yeah. The distressing part was the kind of answers that the doctors gave. So when he said is, how do I prevent something like this? Do I look at moving my house? Do I look at moving cities? Because people were talking about Pune being home for asthma or home for breathing allergies. They said there's so much pollution in the air. So if you go to a seaside resort or a seaside place, maybe it might be better. So when I would ask these questions from the doctor did not have these answers. And that is, I think, what was more panicking for me, because there seemed to be no solution. It almost seemed like a given that it's either this or nothing else. We've all grown up with Western medicine concepts. Correct. In our school and in our living, in our practical living lives. That when you look at alternative therapies like Ayurveda, there is a lot of negative associations with it. That it's not tried and tested, it's mumbo jumbo, वो जड़ी बूटी कुछ दे देंगे, वो जड़ी बूटी में भी steroids हो सकते हैं, उसमें lead poisoning हो सकता है, there can be pesticides in it. So there are many negative associations with that. And नहीं ये तो this doesn't treat, ये तो करते रहो, मालूम नहीं कितने सालों के बाद उसका effect होगा. So
within how long did you start seeing like result which really deepened your conviction in this?
We saw benefits in less than 6 months.
Wow.
In less than 6 months, we could take her off steroid inhalers as preventives.
So that was like a light bulb moment for you.
Not even a light bulb. I mean, this was like, I think, the biggest bonus ever. Wow. I mean, it was like, wow. It was, it was unimaginable, let's put it this way. And I think that just reinforced that this is something which is so wondrous. And then I started reading much more for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Deep science, and like you were saying, that today in the modern age with hectic schedules, was there a hack that you found where you can incorporate that in today's time? Was that one of the questions that kept on going in your mind?
Was bringing the hack of the Abhyanga routine, which is otherwise a 20-minute to 30-minute routine. And Abhyanga is basically the self-massage with oil. And then cleansing yourself after that. And Abhyanga has different parts to it. So one is the whole body Abhyanga, which is typically called Abhyanga. Then there is Shiro Abhyanga. There is Pad, which is the head massage. There's Pad Abhyanga, which forms a very important part of the Dinacharya, which is foot massage. And so I'll first give you an example, of the Abhyanga, okay? So realize that a daily self-massage and then keeping it aside, why is it a problem? In A, it takes 20 minutes. B, a lot of the oils are very sticky. They have strong smells. And then you need to not just wait, but you have to wait in, home clothes, and then you have a bath, and then you have this whole routine. If at all, it might happen, let's say once a year, somebody's gifted you a spa ka thing, or you have a tradition.
It's an occasion.
Diwali,
right?
Abhyanga.
It's an occasion.
Like in Maharashtra, Diwali, Abhyanga Snan is a tradition for Diwali. So, ek din Diwali ke din kar liya Abhyanga Snan, bas you're sorted for the year. Right? Lekin that is only to bring the consciousness कि हमें अभ्यंगा स्नान करना है. Actually वो हमें रोज करना होता है. ये दिनचर्या का है. तो रोज कैसे करेंगे? अभी तो नहीं हो सकता. So we've realized that if I have to do this, we have to do this on a daily basis. We made a formulation of oil with haldi and a mixture of different oils. So you can actually apply it on your body like a moisturizer. Because today, people, that's what they are doing. After your bath, you're applying a moisturizer and getting ready and going to work. So instead of a moisturizer, can we incorporate an oil? And the oil is not just about an oil. The oil obviously now has to be non-sticky. The oil has to give them benefits of the Abhyanga. The whole idea of an Abhyanga is that why do you leave it there? Because it has to soak into your body. So here when you're applying the oil, you don't have to wash it off immediately. You want to allow it to soak into your body. Right? So here, like a moisturizer, if you can leave a moisturizer on, can we leave a oil on? But oils are perceived to be sticky, right? And chip. So when you apply this, let's say after a bath, A, your body is slightly moist. B, your pores are a little open. So the absorption is better. 3 is depending on what is the mix of oils that you use. And in our case, we've also added in haldi, made an experiment with adding haldi extract. So what does that do? People who want a toned skin, for instance, for them, an antioxidant like haldi works wonders. But if we go back to our tradition, haldi uptan was one of the, traditions which was there from babies to old people. Nobody was told कि नहीं तुम हल्दी नहीं लगा सकते. Whereas today, when you have people who are familiar with some things, they'll say नहीं, अच्छा this ingredient is good for me and that ingredient is not good for me. Whereas haldi was a universal thing. Right? So this hack of making a haldi oil worked very well for me for it's replacing a moisturizer. And a moisturizer itself, if you see how to actually make it, is about 5 to 10% of an oil. There's a huge diluent, which is the water, because nobody will want to have just plain oil. And then to emulsify water and oil, you put in emulsifiers. Then you need to add a preservative to make sure that the moment you're putting an organic ingredient with water, it should not cause microbes or it should not cause any fungal growth. So you're putting in a preservative. And so what are all those? Those are all chemicals. Those chemicals are actually leaching in. So when I was talking about bringing the good things in, so you're bringing in good things like oils, but you also need to keep out the bad things, which are chemicals. And why are these chemicals bad? Because if you see our Ayurvedic tradition, they don't say you should have chemicals, right? So those chemicals now in today's day and age, we can't think of a life without chemicals, because we need preservation, because we need to buy the products off the shelf, because we need to have a long shelf life, because it needs to be there in a warehouse for a duration of time, because it needs to be manufactured at a certain economic order quantity at the manufacturing unit. So you need shelf life. So you need preservation. That preservation comes mostly through chemicals, because those are the cheapest preservatives. There are natural preservatives. Essential oils, for instance, are natural preservatives. If you take turmeric oil instead, turmeric extract, rosemary extract, lavender extract, these are all essential oils which are themselves preservatives in some ways. So you can have something which is good and yet a preservative. But coming back to the bad things of the chemicals, see, today, I think for the last 10, 15 years, you've heard the word parabens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with parabens?
No.
They say shampoos, parabens free. Or they'll say lotion, parabens free, no parabens, no phthalates, no parabens. Basically, parabens is a preservative. Okay? And there are other things which are there as emulsifiers. So today, sulfates are emulsifiers. So they'll say sulfate-free shampoo. Okay, those are emulsifiers. What do they do? It is now science has found, and there are many studies, publicly available studies. They're linking parabens and several of these chemicals to long-term impacts on health. They're starting with short-term allergies, of course. And in fact, that's what we discovered with my daughter, that many of these things, that time I did not know anything about parabens. I just found lots of chemical names. When I looked, exploring as to what are each of these chemicals, as to what was causing her problem. And no, it could be a variety of them. And there were a lot of complex names, which even to me as an engineer didn't make sense, because I'm not a chemist. But we found that they were associated with allergies. They were associated with hormonal imbalances, especially in girls. They were associated in some cases to toxicity in the blood. And in some cases, they were associated even with cancer. So now, parabens, in today's day and age, most people are aware that, I should buy something which does not have parabens. But parabens itself as an ingredient was discovered way back in 1930s. Okay, it's only now 2000 plus that we are now talking about no parabens. Okay, the product should be parabens free. So it has taken that long for society to understand that this has long-term implications on health, because these things are actually leaching into the skin. And interestingly, when we attended a medical conference in France, there were some doctors who were presenting, and they said that 1 out of 3 people above the age of 60 in Western Europe either had incidence of cancer or would have cancer during their lifetime. And they talked about different cancers. And they said, the highest level at that point in time was the colorectal cancer. And the second highest was skin cancer. I think there was ovarian or breast cancer was one of those, but then those don't really spread too fast, I think. And what they said was that it was not just the UV rays of the sun, but it was the effect of the leave-on cosmetics, chemicals in the leave-on cosmetics, which lead to long-term issues like cancer.
And Western world probably was using more of it as compared to India.
So that is the interesting thing. So when we say leave-on cosmetics, what do we associate? We think of it as, we think of it like foundation and lipstick. हम लोग ऐसे सोचते हैं ना, हम लोग सोचते हैं, and this is where my thought also was कि हम लोग तो इंडिया में तो यूज ही नहीं करते, बहुत ही कम यूज करते हैं. The Western world uses all that. But you take something as basic as a moisturizer, which you're using on a child from the time the child is a baby. Moment you graduate from the oils, you're putting a moisturizer. In a city like Pune, which is dry climate, you will put moisturizers all the time. So you are putting a leave-on cosmetic. Right? So the challenge is how, like staples in food, how do you keep chemicals out of something which was something so ubiquitous? Everybody's using it all the time. And those are the ones which cause long-term damage. You're putting it a little bit on something. You're using one little sprinkle of masala. There you don't bother whether it's organic masala or not, right? But you're using dal chawal, there you're checking it out, it's organic or not. So that is the impact of things. So coming back to the hacks. So ultimately it was about getting the good ingredients in of the oils and the haldi and keeping all the bad ingredients out. So that you're thinking you're doing good for your body by putting all these good ingredients, but you're also doing bad at the same time by keeping all the chemicals in. So you need to have this and that.
And I remember the last time when we spoke, you said even a small percentage can cause the bad things. So it has to be like 100%. It's like this or that. I mean, there's nothing in between. Is it binary?
So the thing is that how does one check out this?
Oh, is there a variance tolerance? I mean,
See, the thing is that, so again, I'm a layman. I'm not a researcher at a laboratory, and I have not done clinical trials. But I'm looking at this as a user. And as a user, if you ask me, it's very difficult to assess what is the right balance. Where is the tipping point? Because if it may be small, but let's say that's small. Let's look at drip irrigation. Okay? Kitna pani dal rahe hain in the plant is just one drop. But that one drop every day accumulating over time, first of all, it's accumulated on your body for 24 hours. Then every single day, every square centimeter of your body, you are putting for years and years and years. So even if it's a very small percentage, if it's accumulating in your body,
it's going to build up.
It's going to build up. If the body knows how to flush it out, body knows how to even kill, let's say, the COVID virus. Okay, your system knows how to produce the antibodies. But how do you kill a chemical molecule? It either has to get flushed out or it remains inside. And if it remains inside, then it's a foreign particle. How is the body reacting to a foreign particle inside your body? I don't know. But my hypothesis, and at least based on whatever I've read, is that a foreign particle inside your body is going to constantly cause some inflammation. And over a period of time, if the inflammation is not quelled, the body is not in homeostasis. The body is not in equilibrium because there is something which is bothering your body from inside. We may not know it at our conscious level, but at some subconscious level, it is working on it.
And explain to me this concept of homeostasis. This is when
it's just the body being in equilibrium. Just in equilibrium. Let's just forget big words. Equilibrium. Santulan.
Right. All signals.
Balance.
So you actually went deep, with this journey into Ayurveda. And I remember last time when we spoke, you said you're an accidental entrepreneur. So how did that go? I remember you telling me that you were exploring some other alternate so-called career paths. And then all this was happening in your life. So at what point did it kind of merge and kind of come together for you?
I would constantly pick out while traveling at different duty frees, different things, pick out different products that I would use. In those days, I would never bother to look at labels. I started looking at some labels when I was expecting, but that time it would be looking at just food labels because I was very conscious that I did not want to have any chemicals or harmful ingredients. At that time, the only harmful ingredient one knew about was MSG or Ajinomoto. Our levels of awareness were also so low, right? That was another interesting aspect. Then third one was this exploration into yoga and Ayurveda and holistic healing, of all the good things that were there in our traditions, yet of the bad things that were happening with the chemicals because of the allergies that my daughter would react to. Even if there was a color in the product, or if there was color in the food, or if there was a fragrance in the product that she used, she would have a problem with that. The fourth aspect was that I realized that these are things which needed to come into the mainstream. But what were the options? At the same time, another aspect, my husband was an investor. We landed up investing in a company which was making pure extracts of herbs and spices. And some of the negative impacts which one hears about Ayurveda or holistic healing is that either they are not effective or that they have certain other negative things like pesticides or lead or other things which can be negatively impacted. There was another experience that we had about this doctor presenting about why chemicals in leave-on cosmetics are problematic. And through this whole personal journey into Ayurveda, as well as the fact that that we invested in this extracts business, somehow I felt that maybe there's some karmic connection of us needing to take health.
Life is directing you towards something?
Towards something related to health. And then when this talk happened by this doctor, and at the same time I had an epiphanous moment, I had applied some neem oil on my leg to counter some boils which I had. And I'd incidentally picked up that neem oil in France, just at that conference. And in less than 5 minutes, I could taste it on my lips. And I thought maybe I've put that, neem, I don't know if you've ever eaten neem leaves or you've tasted neem oil, it's extremely bitter. So I was very conscious the next time and I did not put that. I was very careful about not touching my fingers on my lips. But it happened the second time, it happened a third time, not my fingers on my lips, but when I applied the oil on that boil, because I was by that time working on natural remedies.
And you could taste it.
I could taste it. And then I realized that this is the way the pathway of action is, that we are applying things on our body and it is circulating in our blood. And why is it that when we apply other moisturizers and creams, etc., why don't we taste those? And then I realized that those molecules are those colorless, odorless, tasteless molecules, and they are going in. And you think about the skin as being the super protector thing, but that the skin itself is semi-permeable membrane. So while it keeps the big things out, but it allows all the small things to go in. And as science is advancing, our molecules are getting smaller and smaller for them to act deeper and deeper. So if it is a good molecule, it's great for you. If it's not a good molecule, then it's bad. But how do you define whether a molecule is good or bad? Sometimes in the short run, you need a molecule which will cure you for something. But when you're using it on a regular basis over long durations, then even a good molecule can become bad because your body doesn't know how to deal with it. But coming back onto what actually happened was I realized that even things that we're applying on our skin works on different measures. So skincare is not just about beauty. It actually goes deeper than the skin. And therefore, skincare is a means for wellness.
Affects your whole well-being.
It affects your whole well-being. So it can work as a preventive and it can work as a therapeutic. And therefore, But on the other hand, skincare is something which needs to be brought back with that consciousness into people's lives. And I saw this as a means of working on a prevention as well as a therapeutic thing for long term. Not so much just as for a beauty or cosmetic thing, but for overall well-being. And even more importantly, and I think that is where the crux of the matter was, is to make it convenient and easy to use. Because very often we know that this is bad, but you have no option. Secondly, you may know that something is really good, but if it's time consuming, it's messy, you can't figure it, that it can dovetail into your daily life, then again, there is no point, right? So it had to be convenient, it had to be easy to use, it had to be 2 minutes.
So are you saying this is over a long term, or do you kind of see these benefits, in a short time? Or can one feel it, or does one just go by faith alone? In the long run, this is going to be...
Okay, so there are some products in the skincare which have immediate impact. So as per Dinacharya, you're supposed to massage your foot every night before sleeping. Now we've formulated an oil, a ginger oil called Zingiber Foot and Body Oil, which is taking the extract of ginger and turmeric into a base of sesame oil. When you apply, you apply just before you sleep, I think less than about 30 seconds to even a minute. You can actually feel the benefit by the next morning because you've had much deeper sleep. Okay, so this is part of the Dinacharya, which is now translating, which was otherwise a 20-minute process. The Padabhyanga is not always 20 minutes. Padabhyanga, you can apply just the oil and leave it. But which I'm talking about is actually for inducing better sleep, for reducing your tiredness, your foot edema, all of that, because that is how our stressful lives are, right? So you are countering the stress, you are countering the blood circulation in less than 30 seconds. You can feel the impact through a better sleep. And the same oil, when you apply, let's say you're working out for long hours on the computer and your neck and your shoulders are all stiff, you apply, just take a spray of that and just apply it here. That's all it needs. You will feel the benefit almost instantaneously. I've had customers who've told us that, I tried several things and once I applied your oil, in less than 30 minutes, I could feel the difference. The muscle catch opened up. Because it's not my oil, it's actually ginger which is doing the magnificent benefits. And ginger in the right amount. Because it's like this, suppose you make a pot of biryani, उसमें आप एक चुटकी नमक डालोगे, तो उसमें नमक का तो स्वाद ही नहीं आएगा. तो you have to put it in the right amount also for it to be effective. Very often what happens is on the labels they'll say natural, or they'll say haldi yukt, or they'll say tulsi yukt, or they'll say something. So they're indicating, yes, there is an indication that yes, that ingredient is there. लेकिन वो सही मात्रा में है कि नहीं?
Who knows?
Who knows? Because first of all, our disclosure norms are not very stringent. Secondly, that establishment that this much percentage is required for it to be beneficial has also not been tried and tested. And unfortunately, the consumer is not so aware. And that is where the effectiveness is seen. So for example, even for our face oil, people are able to start seeing the benefit within an initial benefit within a week, but otherwise definitely a proper benefit within about 3 weeks to a month. They can make out a huge difference in the skin quality. Because the whole idea is that your skin cells are getting created and they have a life cycle of their own. During that life cycle, you need to make sure that they're getting the right nourishment and they are getting the right antioxidants to make sure that they heal from within. And turmeric, interestingly, in Ayurveda has benefits at different stages of the, of the skin layers for different kinds of problems. Like it can be for pigmentation, it can be for fungal infections, which are surface related. It can be for scars, which are in the third or the fourth layer. It can be for fairly deep lesions, which go really way down inside. So, or even stretch marks for that matter. So all these things are being addressed by haldi. And combined with the right kind of a carrier oil, which also are time tested. We say, we try to use only the ones which are there in the texts of Ayurveda, and apart from that, only of food grade quality. Because of my experience of the skin absorbing everything, or rather, I used to feel that the skin is eating everything. So I wanted to make sure that the products that we are making are only made with food grade ingredients and only of the highest purity and quality. So marrying the benefits of Ayurveda with the extraction procedures of modern science to get pure extracts, with modern research to make sure that nobody thinks of this as mumbo jumbo, but these are corroborated in modern technical literatures, and ultimately to have them of food grade quality so that you are getting wellness from every side when you're applying it on your skin. And the fifth dimension is also the aroma aspect, because there is a Western practice of aromatherapy, which was also there. Actually, if you see in Ayurveda also, they'll have different smells. Like we have jasmine, let's say. They'll say have rose water. These are also playing on you, not just on the surface level, but through your nose. So they'll say, okay, sandalwood smell is calming, or rose water is a calming smell, or something else is aggravating, or something else is pacifying. There is a whole science behind the aromatherapy. So to make sure that even at the fifth dimension, so what you breathe in is also matching that. So when you're talking about the benefits, so there are some things where you can see benefits immediately. There are some things which will have benefits which you can see benefits over a period of 3 weeks to a month. And then, of course, there is ultimately is just the faith that this is pure and it's good and it will do you better over a longer period of time as compared to a disbenefit.
Right. So after you invested into this company, right, which was doing this pure extracts, for you to start your brand, and this is Parama Naturals, right? How long was that journey? I mean, so how long back did you start Parama Naturals?
Okay, so I think I left a little bit of your question unanswered. So all these things were there, which were these, miraculous moments and discoveries that we had. And I realized that at every point in time, I kept looking in the market because, see, I'm not a cosmetologist. I'm an engineer by training. And by that time, I was starting to get more interested in looking at people development, in teaching, education, seeing what is this new avatar of myself that I wanted to work on. But I realized that these products not only could do good, but we also had feedback from people who were using it. Because, for instance, a friend of mine had a problem with rashes when she would use her moisturizer. And when her skin was breaking out, by that time I was the neighborhood so-called expert in natural living or natural therapies. And she said, why don't you give me something? And I gave her this haldi oil, which I had made. And I just asked her, is it okay, for you? And she said, it's okay. I didn't break out into anything. And then I forgot about it. A few months later, when we met at a party and she was complimented on her glowing skin, she said, I'm only using the oils that Geeta made. And then these friends of mine asked me for them, and so I made it for them. Then they said, now it's getting over, now you need to sell it to us. I said, I'm not starting this business. So I finally realized that, if they're asking me, and these were people who were familiar with the best brands in the market. They were also well-traveled, so they also had access to the best foreign brands. So if they were demanding this, was there a need for this? And then I started scouring the market. And I still found that there was nothing which I felt safe enough for my daughter to use, for instance. And I realized that there is a gap. So I started doing a little bit of testing, seeing, are more people finding it beneficial? What all aspects is it working on them? Like for my mother-in-law, it worked on her psoriatic patch. My daughter did not break out into allergies. And this friend of mine was complimented on her glowing skin. And she said, my tan got removed and I traveled. And, oh, you know what? I think my dark circles are going away. And then we started observing for longer durations. Is it really happening? Because the first experiments were then on myself, on everybody else around me. And we said, okay, fine, this is working. So then I think I was kind of like a reluctant entrepreneur and an accidental entrepreneur. But yes, I felt that, yes, I should do this. This entire thing, from the time that we invested in the plant which was making extracts to the time that I finally decided to incorporate this company, was almost 9 years. Wow. So during that period, people were using the products. I was doing a lot of research during that time. And because, when you are kind of like a startup entrepreneur in the second half of your life, you wanted to make a difference to people. You wanted to have a meaning for yourself. It has to be a meaning for society. And I think to my mind, it was not just a business that I was looking at doing, but it was in some ways an ikigai that I found for myself, that I felt that this is not just something that I now am good at, which is knowledge which I had accumulated, but it was also something that could help society or help people, and it could form a living. And I could, some of my other passions, which are health and education, I could actually dovetail through that. Destroying all these myths that you can have skincare without chemicals was a very, very important self-challenge.
Yeah. And
I'm enjoying this journey of being an entrepreneur, because even things like CSR or inclusivity or sustainability, and I'm looking at this as actually doing it at every level. So if my ingredients are, I'm sourcing my ingredients directly as virgin cold pressed oil straight from farmer producer organizations. So there is no processing, right? So it's as green as it could be. The only thing is that some of these ingredients are not grown around where I'm manufacturing them, so they need to be transported, yes. And they obviously need to be transported to reach the end consumer, so therefore it is not 100% green. But there are no chemicals. So there's no chemical production there are no chemicals or pollution for making the chemicals. There are no chemicals which you're applying in your skin, so therefore it is sustainable for you over a lifetime. And after you wash it off, there's no chemicals leaching into the soil, so you're sustainable there. We're trying to make sure that our packaging is sustainable, that we use either only recycled materials or recyclable materials. So we don't use multi-layered plastic. We don't use single-use plastic. We make boxes out of recycled materials. We make, even the potleys we dye from the waste turmeric that we take out after we've extracted the oil. We use that turmeric for dyeing our potleys. So we're trying to be as sustainable and inclusive. We're trying to support sustainable livelihoods at the grassroots. So that why wait till we become profitable and then put in 2% in the CSR? Can we do it, dovetail it right now? So a lot of our employees are girls from the community. We are supporting them through their education journey so that they don't have to opt out of the education thing. We are doing like a earn while you learn kind of a program with them. So they continue working while they study. So we give them leave for their exams, for their study leave, etc.
So even the business has been structured in a very holistic fashion. Is that what you would say?
Yes.
10, 15 years back, it has changed, in this journey over the last several years. Is there some belief that comes to the top of your mind?
So I think one very core belief, and which is now into my conscious living, is that at that point in time, so I used to think that business is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I won't say business
Or
is
earning
bad.
money through business is bad? Is that?
I won't say business is bad, but business is not meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't associate myself as business, because business is bad. You know, we grew up in a service kind of a mindset. You know, my large extended parts of my family were either teachers, professors, government servants, or private sector, but always in the employment. So business मतलब धंधा.
Mm-hmm.
धंधा means तुम कुछ कर रहे हो और उसके लिए पैसा ले रहे हो. Whereas on the other hand, they say the best things in life are free. But actually that's not really true, because when you come back to the Purusharth, Artha is, when you say meaning, एक तरफ से अर्थ is meaning, एक तरफ से अर्थ is financial thing, you know, financial benefit out of it. एक और तरफ से देखा जाए तो Lakshmi, who we worship in India, is the goddess of wealth. Wealth is not really bad, but wealth as money was still seen bad. And yet when you look at wealth in a holistic manner, because Ashtalakshmi, if you see, is Dhan Lakshmi, Dhane Lakshmi, Vara Lakshmi, Santana Lakshmi. So everything is wealth. So wealth itself is a responsibility. Wealth is not bad. Money is not bad. Business is not bad. It needs to serve a need in society. If it serves a genuine need in society, it's actually really good. And so therefore, when you earn money through those purposes, it's actually not just good, but it's very, very important. Because otherwise, somebody else who's not doing the business properly is making the money. So when you are doing something in the right manner, you're actually doing good. And if you have to sustain, you need the money. And therefore, doing good business is good.
And every vision for yourself.
Coming back to, this was a big mind block in my mind, because for me it was, I can give you the things, but I don't want to sell it to you. For me, it was a huge mindset shift to move from being an employee to being a business person. And I think, like in Ikigai, one of the quadrants is that is somebody or is society willing to pay you for it? Is the final test of whether it is going to serve society or not. Because people will pay you only if it benefits them. And you might as well do it with the full dharma that you're doing a good thing. So that is extremely important. So I think that was a huge, if you're saying that one thing, I think that is that one thing for me.
Super awesome. Geeta, thank you so much for being on the show. Really wish you all the very best and hope you get your moksha by pursuing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At least at this point in time, see, you know what? I've realized this one thing, that in a person's life, you will have many careers. So at some point in time, it was an engineering career and then a management corporate career. But Peter Drucker himself said in 1950s that you have to be prepared for a second career and a third career. And today, like in the conversation you were talking about, that in recent times, they're talking about 19 careers. Yeah. All I'd like to say is that, there'll be multiple careers, but, you keep at it. You keep striving. You keep adding on your skill sets. You keep adding on the value that you keep providing. Because the other extreme is that a rolling stone gathers no moss. But on the other hand, if you make it a cumulative experience, then it can work beautifully. Today I'm integrating my knowledge, not just of that, but of manufacturing or of people management or financial management or now communication or whatever.
Like you said, just keep going. I think.
Just keep going. Is that there's so many things that we need to work on mindsets, and this how the entire mind and body can be improved through a combination of self affirmations and small habits or small changes that you can make on a daily basis, that you can go on a continuous improvement journey. So that was another thing that sometimes we have these mindsets that I can never do this, that sometimes taking that first step is the beginning of the 1,000-mile journey. That first step is the most important, and that first step, even if it's a 2-minute thing that you do just on a daily basis and just be at it, that accumulation can make a huge difference to your life without you even realizing it.
Awesome.